Hello, welcome to our astrology study group where we're just looking at a lot of things astrologically. And last week we looked at, we go through a lot of topics, I think, um, but we're starting to look at some charts. And last week we looked at the charts of a lot of guitar players, and some of them were just um, really intense, talented guitar players. Others had other skills with singer, songwriter, um, producing themselves, being in other parts of the band. There's lots of other things. So we kind of definitely saw some astrological aspects that would kind of shape that. And today we'll continue that. I was going to do more guitar players, but I think there's so many to do. I might come back and do another one with more guitar players because there's so many to look at this. But I thought I'd go on, being the Aries that I am, going and moving on. We're going to look at keyboard players. And there's a smattering of, what do I say, in this field or in this realm. I took a lot of classical trained pianists, some of the classical ones that we all know of, and then I also looked at some of the modern ones, keyboard players. And again, I tried to separate or to have some different ones where the talent was just a keyboard player, where you can see all that time and dedication and hours of practicing and what type of person that would be, as well as somebody then like a modern band where you have to have other skills. You might, sing while you're playing. I think that's more apropos to now, where maybe 200, 300 years ago, it was easier to just be a solo musician there. um, yeah. So I have that as well as other skills. So we'll kind of see that. So we're going to look and I think expect similar things that we saw in the guitarists. We know that there's a lot of dexterity. There's a lot of mind. When if you play either of those instruments, both hands are busy. They're both. I mean, in a lot of instruments, they're both busy, but technical busy, busier than other parts of the body. In with other instruments. So we see, and then they're both doing different things and doing really intense different things. So not only do we have the hands, we have the mind and that part of the brain, I should say, the brain and that part of the brain being developed to speak to two different things at one time. So we want to go ahead and look at that. So we would expect, I would think, Mercurial or Geminian tendencies. So what would that be? So we know, starting out real easy, anything third house related. It's a natural house of Gemini, the ruler of Mercury. We would also look at Mercury in, involved. Let's put it that way. Mercury in the third house would be, the cat's meow. Mercury in Gemini in the third house would be the real cat's meow. But we would like to see any planets in the third house. We would like to see Mercury connected to other planets in the chart, or well connected as well. And if it's a famous person, or somebody that's making money and has contracts and royalties and all that, we would expect to see things up at the midheaven, either the sun itself or connections to maybe Jupiter. So we would look at those. So we're going to go fishing for those types of things in these charts. So we're going to learn those things, and we're going to actually just go look for them. So we go find and see those. Before we jump in there, I was going to tell you one more thing. It'll come back to me. Okay, so those are the big things that I know, I'm going to look at. In the middle, I have these are aspect lines, and I have it set for this quintile. And if I say septile at all, just know that I mean quintile, because I get going on and then the astro babble comes out sometimes, and I may say the wrong word, but I'm talking about quintiles. Quintiles is 72 degrees. And what's really interesting about this is it's a creative aspect. It's not one of the traditional aspects we look at all the time, the Ptolemaic aspects. It's not like the square or the trine or the conjunction. It's an odd one. But even though, I mean, it's still an even number. There's only one number of the, 1 through 12. If you divide it into the 360, will give you irrational number, and that's 7. So we'll talk about that another time. But basically, we have 72 degrees on a quintile. And then there's biquintiles and triquintiles. So check this out, like 72, times two, that's 144, right? We got 14, 2 is 4. 144, that's pretty close to the quincunx, that 150-degree angle, right? So it's close to it. So I think we talked about this before. So if you have that, it's commonly called inconjunct, but it's kind of an inappropriate name. It's really a quincunx, quincunx. Anyway, that one is our 150-degree angle. Now, I just want to say one more thing. The septile, the other one, the one that's the irrational, you divide 7 into the 360, it's going to give you like a 51-degree point something. Okay, let's just say 51 rounded off, but it's an irrational number. It's like point something. You don't have a pointed fraction. Anyway, so it's 51, like, and if we took that and times it by 3, that would be, we have 51, so we would have 153, right? Now that's close to our 150 quincunx, but it's 3 degrees more. So if a lot of this depends on orb. If you have a quincunx that's a little bit more than the 150, what if it's 152? It's going to be closer to that septile, which is, that seven goes into that circle. So anyway, it's going to bring up more of that magical aspects for you. Or if you have something that's less than 150, closer to, like if it's one, the other one was 144. If we had something like at 146 or 146 or 148 degrees, it would be closer to that quintile. So it's not always that weird inconjunct that doesn't make sense. It's real close to two other cool things. And this one in the middle that I have it set for is that 72 angle, which is that angle of creativity, people bringing stuff out of nowhere, creating new things. And if I forget to mention it throughout, looking for what we're looking for in these people, I just kind of want you to be aware of that in the middle. Some people, you'll see a whole bunch of them. Who was it? It's one of the old composers. I think it was, when we get to them, it's like maybe Beethoven or, yeah, we'll see, or Mozart. One of them has just a ton of them. But anyway, we're going to get going on this. So you probably have noticed that Mercury in Liberace's chart, some of these people you may not know, some of you will, but we're just going to try to go run through these just to give you some idea of the keyboardist's point of view here. So Mercury is in the 3rd house. We have that. We have, Sun, real close conjunction over here to Mars. So we got that energy, but that Mercury right there is telltale. And we have his one of his nodes in Gemini. So that's kind of maybe more of a fated place. And this is, his south node, which is where he came from. He probably had been a piano player, if you believe in past lives or had piano training, you will learn to play. So anyway, it's something to do with the past or what he's bringing in, however you want to view that. All right, so that's that. And then these were all pretty much all good times. I mean, these were all when I typed them in my software, they gave me the time. I think there's only one that I had to find. All right, so let's move on. Let's go to, this is a classical. I never heard of this lady, but I did until today. Martha Argerich, I think, and she's, I believe, Argentinian female keyboardist, piano player, classical. And I guess I found she was like, at the time of that writing, she was the only living female one, and she would sell out in minutes if she were to do concerts. So anyway, look at this ultra Gemini up here. Gemini on the midheaven, right there, both sides of it, 9th and 10th house. But look at, she's got, Venus there, and, in her 10th house in Gemini, Sun in Gemini, and Jupiter in Gemini. So that goes to say that, she was famous, I want to say keyboardist, but pianist, let's say. It just sounds such a weird word. Her whole life. So I was looking up her a little bit, and then she's pretty neat lady. But look at all that right there at the midheaven. Nothing in the 3rd house. Whereas Mercury's right up here. So that's enough right there. Okay, so we're going to just kind of look for our rule. I try not to distract myself and get too much into their chart. But look at these quintiles. We have something here, Uranus over to Mars, over to the moon. So there's some interesting creativity there. Saturn over to Pluto. I don't know what her music is like, but interesting. Look at these nice lines here.
Harry,
Yes.
what it means, but I noted that Liberace also had that line between Uranus and the moon.
Oh, okay. Let me look at that.
Both of them have had that.
Yeah,
And
thank
knowing
you.
Uranus's unexpected things,
There you go. Yeah.
so I'm thinking unexpected creativity because of the moon.
Yeah, look at that.
Things.
Oh, yes. Cool. Yeah, and then he's got some like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6. The dotted line means that it's separating, and then the lighter line, it's just not, it's a little bit further away. That's all that. So the darker one is the more exact it is. All right, well, we'll keep that in mind as we move it through these. That's good. Good observation. All right, moving here to Beethoven. Ludwig Beethoven. All right, so look at him. Mars, Mars in Gemini, we have that there. The vertex there. His eighth house. That's kind of interesting. In Gemini, we've got a couple planets there in the third house. Venus and Pluto. Wow, kind of like the depths, And then we've got a nice quintile from Venus over to Mars. Somebody else has that one too. We'll look and see it. Maybe it was Freddie Mercury. I forget. And then we got Pluto over to his ascendant, and that looks like a good time on that. And what else? Where's his Mercury? Mercury's here. Okay, so we've got a couple things going on here. We got two out of our kind of our 3 rule. Mercury, let's see how well integrated it is. Well, let's see, we got it making an aspect over, it's opposing Mars. Mercury opposing Mars. It's aspecting his nodes. It's conjunct the sun, a wide conjunction to the moon. Semi-sextile over Venus. So yeah, he's got it integrated. It's in. It may not be perfect on things. But, all right. Chopin, Frederick Chopin. And he's got a Virgo rising. I've noticed a few Virgo risings here, but there's so much. It'd be nice to make a little worksheet. Okay, what has he got? He's got Gemini at the midheaven. Interesting. What was his year birth? 1810. Wow. All right, but he's got the Uranus in the third house, Neptune in the third house. Let's see, is that conjunct, or is that it moved out to the moon? No. Is it making any aspect to the moon? Yeah, it's making a sextile. Uranus making sextile to the moon. So we do have an aspect of Uranus to the moon. We'll just kind of keep that in the back of our head. See, look at that one. That's cool. That creative, intuitive creativity. Pulling it in from who knows where. All right. Well, so we got a couple of those things going on with him. Good. Lang Lang, a more modern pianist, and I guess he was really, really big in China and created, like, I guess a whole generation, a whole bunch of kids just loved him and wanted to play piano. So he started a whole thing. And look at, he's a sun in Gemini and Mercury in Gemini. Gemini at the midheaven again. What do we have here with the moon? Yeah, look at there. It's like kind of a wide quintile with Uranus and the moon here too. It's separating, but still there. Cool. And then he's got Uranus in the third house. Interesting. Wow, and then the moon also going over to Pluto. Okay. Franz Liszt. I want to say Lisp, but yeah, Liszt. Kind of a busy third house. Look at Mercury close by. It's just lagging behind. It's close over there, but they got the sun, Venus, and Uranus all there in the third house. So busy third house. Let's see if that's connected to the moon. I'm gonna be looking now. No. Well, it's like semi-sextile, so we have it some kind of a conversation. We can't discount it because we may not like the aspect, but it's still there. Let's see how well Mercury is. Okay, so Mercury 10 degrees. Okay, it's making a sextile was it sextile? One, two, yeah. Two signs over to Neptune, Mercury, Neptune. I'm not real familiar with his music, but we must have something that's communicating some kind of dreamy or otherworldly with that Neptune connection to Mercury. Have to go listen. Oh wait, what else do we got here? Um, I guess we'll see. It's kind of it would be wide over here to Uranus. It's too wide. I already said that one. That's kind of wide. It would be wide over to Mars too. It could be a square over to Mars, slightly wide. In conjunct over to Pluto. All right, well, we got it integrated and we got a few things going on here. And then we also have Gemini, up at the midheaven. Even though Taurus starts it, it's still a Gemini in that part of the chart. Wow, they just kind of following in line. Okay, it was Mozart that had the real busy quintiles all over the place. I think he's like one of the most I've ever seen and all that. Let's see, let's look at the moon while I'm there. It probably doesn't have one to that. Nope. Of all the ones, right? Oh, but anyway, it's probably making some kind of an aspect. What do we got here? We got a square moon over to there to Uranus. So we do have, moon Uranus connection. We'll just notice that. Just say moon Uranus connection. Okay, well, he's got again a Gemini at the midheaven. Wow, look at Mars just moved into Cancer. It was just hanging out, and I was like, oh, oh. He probably wanted to come out earlier. Oh, I want to be in there. Okay, and then look at we've got the conjunction with the Sun and Mercury. Interesting. I mean, and then we've got Saturn on the other side, a little bit farther away, but it's probably helped him focus and be serious, about the. And look at all of this fixed Aquarian energy. Wow. Hmm. Okay. Rachmaninov. This guy had an octave reach. Of more than an octave, and much people do, but he went to a 13th. It's almost, it's almost two octaves. His fingers are good that long or that reach. Amazing. Okay, a lot of stuff here up at the midheaven. We have a Mercury over on the 11th house, but look at all this stuff clustered up in here. Wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 planets clustered like near the top of his chart. Interesting. Okay, Mercury. Well, let's look at the third house. Nothing in the third house. No, yeah, we have the moon in Gemini. Okay, so we do have, one of those. So yeah, busy emotional inner life there, and then all of this stuff up here in Sun in Aries, Mercury in Aries, Neptune in Aries. That Aries energy just gets stuff happening, and it then settles down there with the Venus in its home sign, and then we got Pluto there. Interesting, but then that wide, it was wide little stretch here, North Node in Taurus, and then our nice moon in Gemini. But let's look at what I want to see. Mercury connected. So making a semi-sextile to Pluto. Anything else over here? Making a trine over to Jupiter. And his Jupiter is the first house. What else here? It's kind of making a wide in conjunct or quincunx over to Mars down here. Yeah, so Mercury, we've got it integrated into the chart. Clara Schumann, Robert Schumann's wife. A lot of people considered her way more talented. Scorpio rising. We've got nothing in the third house. Let's go down to it. Aquarius on that. Nothing in the third house. We've got nothing in Gemini. But we have, let's see how well Mercury is integrated into the chart. It's making over here to Mars. We've got a semi-sextile over to Mars. We've got, let's see, down over here to Jupiter. We've got a quincunx over to Jupiter. 8 degrees to the node. We got a little bit of action on that. She's not real heavy in our rule. And then how about our time? Our time, I kind of would maybe, it's at noon, but that's what pulled up. So I'm going to just kind of go with it with the house placement, but we're just kind of checking out the aspects. So she has no planets in Gemini, nothing in the third house. Let's see, what's the ruler of her third house? Aquarius, where's her? Let's see there. And then just a little, I would say her Mercury, it's integrated. Maybe it's not well integrated. I mean, we have some with the conjunction here. Well, I guess. All right. So we got a conjunction over to Venus. We've got a semi-sextile over to the node. Um, and we would say these are sextile over to Mars and the moon. So okay, so there's several planets there. And then over here to Jupiter. Okay, so there's plenty. All right, so she does follow our rule too. All right, is there anybody, let's see, it's more old world. Okay, so I would say these people again are more of your classic, just pianists, maybe pianist composer, maybe teaching students or something, but they're pretty much just focused in here. So I think we pretty much found a lot, and then again, I didn't look at all the quintiles, but we see a lot of them have those connections. And we look over Mars. I mean, the moon over here. No, the moon isn't over there. Okay, so let's move into some of the modern people. And I got some of the jazz people first. Here's Herbie Hancock. He was pretty innovative on keyboard. He did a lot of interesting things. Interesting with a Pisces rising. So he was must have been just like really pulling that in. But he has a busy third house. Look at all that in Gemini, and he is just really innovative. I mean, doing all those, what was that song, Rocket? All of that crazy stuff in that song. And he's just a good keyboard player too. But look at here, we got the nice look at the Mercury. I mean, Venus and Mars exact conjunct. They're both at 7 degrees. Both of them close enough to the moon. So conjuncting the moon. Sun in Aries. And then we've got Mercury in Pisces lagging behind. So that must have just either was retrograde or just going direct. Interesting though, big first house, so it's all about him. You know what I mean? All that stuff. All right, so we've got quite a few of our rules here. I just was looking at our Mercury quintiles over to Venus and Mars. Look at that too. So that's cool because we've got that creative instinct with both like on the masculine and feminine side. Both passive, outward, and then inward. So it's got that kind of nice little balance there. Wow. All right, let's look at Chick Corea, jazz player, and we see Mercury, Gemini in the midheaven, and the Sun and Jupiter in Gemini. So that was big career for him. And then the head of the Sun, we've got a nice conjunction with the Mercury with Venus, 7 degrees away, but still it's we've got it close there. But look at that. I mean, it just astounds me. How many are we seeing with Gemini in the midheaven? And nothing in the third house. But we do have Scorpio, so he had to, was focused with that dexterity, maybe put it that way. And let's just look at that moon. Let's see, moon over. Yeah, look at that. He's got a quintile. There we go. Sherry, moon over to Uranus. Oh, this is popping out on quite a few. And he was one of those really innovators with that, jazz fusion when he's with the band Return to Forever. Yeah, cool. Well, it's exciting looking at this. Okay, moving on. Let's look at Keith Emerson, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. He also was very innovative and did some really interesting things. And I just noticed right away, look at that, the moon conjunct Uranus in Gemini. Wow, that is just too much. Wow. And Jupiter in the third house. And then interesting, he's got the quintile of Jupiter over to Saturn. So it's like I mean, it was part of his, just the way he thought, right? Being in the third house, and then, Saturn probably is made to you must learn piano. I don't want to learn piano. Yes, you must. And then look at Sun and Mars and Mercury all over here in concentrating intense Scorpio. Wow, in the fifth house too. Cool. So it was probably a pleasure for him then to do it his way and to make it, his creation. And then having, Venus over here and Sagittarius, that just added that. It's just people like that. He had some really harmonious sounds, some odd things too, I'd have to say, with that Uranus moon thing, but nonetheless. Okay. Freddie Mercury of Queen. He was he used the keyboard in a really interesting way to, promote himself. And look at with that Leo rising. Of course, Freddie Mercury is going to have a Leo rising. And then he's got interesting, look at the depths of this. We've got this Pluto and Saturn over here in the 12th house in Leo. So this is maybe what was troubling some of the things that were kind of troubled soul. Uranus and the North Node over here in Gemini. So we have some of that contact. Wow. Third house, we got Jupiter right on the cusp. Let's see what the degree is there. Yeah, just on the cusp of the third house. And then we have Venus in the third house. Likable person. Look at all this Libra energy here in the second and third house. But yeah, wow, we got a couple things going on with that. I know sometimes I just have to stop and stare a little bit. And look at, we got the moon opposite Uranus here. So we do have a moon Uranus contact again. And then look at the quintiles here, the moon over to Saturn. Ooh. And then Saturn, over here to Jupiter. It's kind of like, and then, there's Jupiter back over to moon. So this is some interesting stuff here. But look how creative and look how many of these open quintiles we got here. Quite a bit on all these planets. All right. Jerry Lee Lewis. Banging on that keyboard, boy. He just brought in a whole different style. Oh, wow. Let's see. Okay, so his third house, he's got Uranus there. Aries on the cusp of that. Uranus quintiling over to Mars. Okay, so we got one planet in there. Where's anything in Gemini? Nothing in Gemini. Let's go look at his midheaven. We've got several things on the midheaven there. I mean, he's got Jupiter. Look at that, right on his midheaven. So I mean, he had to do this for money and business. But then look at the moon conjuncting Mercury, but in two different signs. So that's kind of odd, right? When you get a conjunction and they're straddling that cusp, you got one in one sign, one in the other. So like that Libra moon right at the end of that area of Libra, and then just like wanting to move so much, and then Mercury's already, they're getting that communication there. So interesting. All right, how well integrated is Mercury? Well, we've got Mercury over to Saturn. Let's see what we got. What fixed? We got water. So we got a trine over there. And let's see, he's got some other water stuff. So he's got a grand trine. It's not, it's by element, not degree, because this is Mercury's at 0, and then he's got Pluto at 27, South Node at 17. But nonetheless, he's got a grand trine. What else here? It's semi-sextile the Sun. It's we got sextile Venus. Yeah, so I'd say Mercury's definitely well integrated into his chart. Yeah. All right, moving on. Stevie Wonder. We've looked at him before, but we'll look at him with the eyes of a keyboard player. And nice Libra rising, with Neptune right there on, in his first house. And interesting, straddling that, he's got the South Node and just in the end of his 12th house. Wow. I'm just kind of interesting because he's like, to me, it looks like he's seeing with other eyes, we have Neptune and the South Node, on either side of his ascendant. Okay, let's go look for what we want to look for. Nothing in the third house. Where's his, it's up here. Okay, so he's got Gemini near the midheaven. It's in his 9th house, 8th and 9th house. Mercury conjunct the Sun. Mercury trine Mars. Again, the Sun trine Mars. Mercury and the Sun trine Mars, right? We got Libra, we got Earth. Yep. And so that's pretty integrated, and that's pretty, 2 intense spots right there. And then he's more than a keyboard player. So I think some of this might drop off because we're looking at him maybe being a singer, him being a performer, him, this being his whole life purpose. But anyway, I just wanted to look at that and see what we see. So it's not as much because we got maybe other things going on with him. All right, Bruce Hornsby, another interesting singer, keyboard player. And we have Gemini at the top of a chart, even though his midheaven is Taurus. Gemini, is in his 10th house. And wow, look at that 10th house cusp quintiling over to this nice conjunction of Jupiter and Uranus. Wow. Okay. Boy, and then look at that, making all these aspects, the Jupiter and Uranus, all of to these planets down here, his personal planets, some of them. Here we go. So we've got an intense Scorpio activity here. We've got the sun in the next sign. It's just slipped into Sagittarius, but we've got, the moon, Venus, Mercury, Saturn, all in super focused Scorpio. And then we have Neptune in Libra, all in his 3rd house. So he's got a busy 3rd house. And, he's got the Mercury conjunct Saturn, got Mercury conjunct the moon, Mercury conjunct Venus. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty well integrated. And we got, all this stuff going on up here. And another Leo rising. Carole King. Let's look at Carole King. Great, soulful piano player, singer, songwriter. And look at this beautiful quintiles in here. It looks like a kite, but kind of wide on the bottom. Involving the moon. Look at that, right in the kind of the key spot of the moon, Neptune, and the sun. And then, quick little drop off here to Mercury. Look, because they're conjunct. Sun, Mercury. And that's kind of, look at that, interesting. The moon is, and Mercury and the sun are bridging that 3rd house, kind of. It's like almost encasing it. Huh. Cool. All right, where's Gemini? Gemini, she does have Jupiter in Gemini in the 8th house. Singing about, wrecked love, a lot of really soulful music there. And let's look at, let's see, nope, that's not making aspect there. I was just looking at our Uranus moon thing. It probably is on another one. I just have it set there. Probably find another one. But wow, that's pretty interesting. I'd get tripping out looking at some of these other things. Cool. All right, and then our last one, but not least today, is Barry Manilow. And he was around for a long time. And again, he was a singer too, and a solo career, not just a keyboard player. So he, did a lot of things. But nonetheless, look at all that in Gemini. Of course, he's going to be multi-talented. So I would expect, he was a busy person with his songs, how he sang, his playing career, so look at all that stuff in Gemini. Bing, bong, boom. Wow, the sun leading the pack. Sun, Saturn, Uranus, and Mercury. And I've noticed there that Uranus is kind of in the picture in a lot of these people in some way or another. And then interesting, we have a quintile with the sun and Mars. And then this is Mercury with it looks like the midheaven spot, that one there. It looks like he wasn't as creative in making things out of the blue as he was just like a good player. Like his music wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't anything special, but it was kind of like pop. It followed a formula. It was, what you can play on the radio. It was marketable. There we go. So he was kind of like at the whim of getting marketed. I guess that's the way I would say it. So anyway, what else do we have here? We have we already talked about Gemini up there, and then we have one planet in the 3rd house. Interesting. We have Neptune. Wow, Neptune in Virgo. You're not going to dream about anything crazy. You're going to dream about how to play that 7th chord. It's something like real pragmatic. Wow. Okay, so most of these followed our rule pretty well on 2 or 3, not just one. So interesting looking at the dexterity, we have that Gemini, we have that brain, with the Uranus too, because I think that to me is like an other than Gemini communication in the brain. There's got to be some, to me, Uranus is that electrical. You get that electrical conductivity and those other thoughts or those other things you have to hold in your brain while you're playing music. And they've done studies with people. They've looked at the brain by themselves, like maybe playing the guitar or something by themselves or singing or playing piano. But the whole brain lights up when they play with others. It just doing that or involving yourself more with music, especially with other musicians, because then now you can't just be responsible for yourself. If you're not on time and you're by yourself, you can be off time and work the time and not come in on time, and nobody cares because you're playing by yourself. Nobody notices. I don't say nobody, but you can't do that when you're playing with other people. You can't rush the beat. You can't be behind it. Um, you've got to be right on it, because if you don't, it's a train wreck. So you have to be paying attention to everybody in the band and be listening, to make the whole thing sync up. So the whole brain has to work a lot harder. And if you're used to doing that, like at a young age, that part of your brain is definitely going to be much more integrated. So I would tend to think, if you're looking at the charts of somebody and you don't know, like you're looking at a young person, and you see a lot of that, you might, want to have them explore music and music theory, because it's definitely something that develops the brain. It's definitely something to fall back on, all through your life, no matter, whether you do it by yourself, you're in a church band, you're in a band by yourself, a garage band, or a solo artist, or doing whatever. It's just a very, very good brain exercise. And the more proclivity you have, with Gemini or Mercury and Uranus, bringing those in, or more, things in your third house that may be easier for you. But I would still say everybody's got some kind of musical talent. All right, with that, we'll end this for today. And I'd like to maybe look at some other, we can look at bass players, look at drummers, and see what other things we see. I would say with drummers, we'd probably see similar things with Mercury, with the hands, but it seems like it might be more mechanical. I don't know how to even say this, as opposed to, I mean, you got to train your body, and then it's there. Whereas, it's like you're holding down the beat, so it's going to be maybe more rhythmic. We may find something different than unusual. I don't know. It'd just be interesting. And then the same with bass players. We're probably going to find similar but different. It'd be interesting because it's not going to be, I don't want to say it's not less brainy, but it's not as cerebral, but it is in a different way. So it'll be interesting to look, from the lens of astrology at musicians and just see what we can see. All right. Thanks for listening, and see you all next week. Bye for now. Hello, welcome to Astro Breeze weekly transits. And I think we have a bit of a more mellow week than we did last week. Kind of passed a few things, but yet we still starting this week off with some kind of definitely a tense aspect. We have Mars making that square over to Jupiter, and you can see here 1 degree Taurus to 1 degree Leo. Mars just moved into Leo, and it's going to be making it is making that 10th square. So we're kind of coming into this week with this, could be, how do I want to say it? Maybe taking on big projects. Maybe a situation is crying out for compromise, something big, something we got to take a look at is definitely coming in. And then, Mars coming into Leo, I think it's been itchy to be doing something. I mean, it was, all that time in Gemini, and then it couldn't do anything. It was all dressed up and nowhere to go. And then it had to like babysit when it went into Cancer, and now it's in Leo, and it's like, yeah, but like it's got a square Jupiter. But that could be good on one level, again, taking that energy, of that Mars energy to take on a big solid project, maybe something earthy, maybe something with the land, maybe something that you need to ground, maybe a garden, maybe looking at solid facts, maybe bringing the energy to look at something solid. Yeah, so that's definitely coming in, and then is they were riding together in the last signs, and now they're in these next signs. So this is kind of significant. All right, and then moving on. Whoops, that was yesterday. Okay, moving on to today, Tuesday. That's definitely more exact. You can see it's like 33 minutes. This is 42 minutes, so it could be feeling a little bit more intense on that level. I think that's one of the biggest things so far. We have well, that was it. Okay, well, actually, yesterday the sun. Go back one day. Okay, on Monday we did have the sun making a sextile um, over to Mars. You can see that's 60 degrees away, and then making the semi sextile over to Jupiter. But anyway, sun, and it's kind of like nice, giving it the little blessing energy to do things. All right, we talked about that, and then coming into Wednesday. Um, got a couple things sort of happening here. I got a moon, the moon as it moves into Leo, it's going to join up with Mars. So that's kind of interesting. We've got could be intense emotions, could be, energy to roar or to be outspoken about something or go like, this is wrong. Sticking up for what's right, is basically kind of what that strikes in me. It's like having that emotion, about something, in Leo, and then having that energy of Leo to stand up for it, coming from the heart. Don't pick on her, or whatever. Stand up for what's right. We also have Mars right on here on this day, squaring the nodes. Mars squaring the nodes. Oh, okay. So actually, we can go back 1 degree. Let's go back one day. It's just coming into it. Okay, so then we see right here, 2 degrees. It's a fixed square. Okay, I don't have, yeah, there it is. Fixed square. So Mars, think of that Mars as the middle spot. It's like in the middle of they call it like in the bends. It's in the bends, it's in that weird spot. And then with the moon here at this day, when the moon goes through here too, moon and Mars are going to be right in that the bends or the midpoint of the moon nodes. Well, I think that could be a little bit tense, personally. I mean, squares are never fun, and then we have Mars in here. Um, kind of like to look toward the out point of this would be like 2 degrees um, Aquarius. So anything close to that point could be a release point, for a lot of this energy. So if you have anything there, channel that. It's like it's a square, so it can use that square energy, to build the corner, to make sure the house is right, to make sure your walls are the right, you know, everything's plumb and square. So that's really important. I think that's important on all squares because squares are always tense. They're always hard. So we got a fixed, square. And, with Pluto close over here, it's like, I would say this is a grand square. It's only 2 degrees off. But I mean, you've got that Pluto is at that out point of that energy. So that could be stuff like if we look at it from the world, that's things from the depths. We have all this, the moon nodes and Mars. I think this is kind of something financial as well because we have, the North Node in Taurus, and we have the nodes going ever closer to Aries. And we remember, and we looked at some of the financial astrology that when the moon nodes start into Aries, that's when we start on our downfall. It's when things start to plummet. We've got then our 14 years, 7 years of going down and 7 years going up into financial dismay. I'll just put it that way. All right, so that's important. This is, I think, one of the most important aspects we have right here is this Mars square the nodes, Mars and the moon. The moon is only briefly, but it's going to add insult to injury. I think we got to look out for this to start to come into play. What else we got going on here? We've got Venus. I don't want to get tripped up on that. Where's Venus? Venus at 18 and Chiron at 18. So they're square in cardinal signs. They're square each other. So Venus and Chiron. Chiron is always about wounded, about healing of that. So we have the emotions of Venus or the feel good, and then it's squaring Chiron. So emotions could be running high, or maybe you figure, is it a lot? Is this what I'm doing a lot? We could be favoring the healing components of this too. Things need to be brought up to heal. Yes, you do need to work on yourself. Yes, you do need to have that good cry. Yes, you do need to throw out those old letters and all that old stuff you're hanging on to. You do need to burn it. You need to, it's like you need to do the banishing ritual, whatever it is. That's what's coming up, and then it's like Venus gives you, I think, the female power to look at that and just get rid of it, just move on. Yeah. And then Thursday, we've got the moon will be trining, because it's going to go over, and well, let me just show it to you. Well, you can just imagine. I might miss it when I click it, but the moon will trine Chiron. See, it's here. It's like Wednesday. It's like at the early degrees, and then it moves on. So as it gets to the middle, there we go. It's so like here on Thursday, it's at 12, but moon moves fast. It's like what, 12 degrees a day, 6 degrees in 12 hours. So it will be making that aspect at trine now. So we have that, the Venus was like, all right, go in and get rid of all that stuff. And then now the moon making a nice validating, pat yourself on the back, having the energy to go do it. Maybe you had to go grab all those old letters or all that old stuff, and like here now you can burn them with this fire energy. Get rid of it, burn it, banish it, whatever. So that's the deep healing potential that I think this brings. So it's gonna maybe, you got to put some healing things on that wound. Once you pulled the band-aid off, or once you dug the splinter out. There we go. So I would say maybe the moon Mars, or I mean the Venus Chiron, the Venus square Chiron was kind of like digging the old splinter out, and then now moon trying it, it's like putting on the healing cream. It's like, oh, feels good. I got that dang splinter out, and now I can heal it up. That's what it's like. There we go. I like that. That works. That was a good analogy. Sometimes I'm trying to put some of these. I'm always working on trying to give you this astrology into modern language, but I have to tell you what I'm talking about first, and then putting it into something that makes sense. All right, moving on. Friday. Well, here's where we got, we're just coming off of Mars squaring those nodes. It's tension. It was like, this is like going, I just wanted to give you a little bit more on that. It was letting go of your need to control things. Mars also squaring the nodes. Go back on that degree. Okay. And then what other kinds of security can you find? That's one of my other notes on Mars squaring the nodes. Personally, and we have this stuff out in the world, but I want to give you something for each of us. So again, we have to, it is tense. Mars wants to control things, and the nodes are things from beyond. So that's going to kind of like test your ability to just like go with the flow, go with your insight, go with your intuition, go with what your feelings are, not just making it happen. With that square there, it's like forcing it basically. So you don't want to force it. You want to go with the flow. All right, but then Saturday, we've got a moon opposite Saturn. So it's kind of dour, sour, grumpy, maybe. As the moon's coming up into that, you may just be sort of like, I don't know, just grumpy, sort of sour. It's okay. Let yourself emote that. Don't stay stuck there. But, if you've gone through, like what we were just talking about, if you have some old baggage of stuff, if you have some old things, with a relationship with somebody, that you've just gotten rid of, that you just banished, that you just got out of your depths of your soul, or you threw away physical things, it's going to take a lot out of you, and, the moon opposing Saturn now is kind of like, you got to reckon with it. It's like, now that is done. It's like you dug that splinter out, and you did put the salve on it. It does feel better, but yet you got a crater, that hasn't filled in yet. And you feel wounded. Not feel sorry for yourself wounded, but you just kind of feel like wounded and maybe grumpy about it. So that's okay. It will pass. And then Sunday, Sunday, we got the moon um, making a square over to Saturn. So um, that adds that tense energy. It kind of goes from being wounded to now kind of maybe being PO'd to being uh, mad about something or being kind of like, why did I ever let that happen? I'm never going to do that again. um, it kind of gets that fiery energy maybe built back up. But this is immutable, right? It's mutable. It's, it's in um, quick signs. It's like we got the Saturn, dissolving old structures stuff, with that. And then we've got, the sun, in Gemini, wanting to get busy. So that could give you the busyness to then now move that energy, that frustration, that old wound, the grumpiness. Now you're ready to kind of like, okay, I gotta I gotta get that in action, get moving. um more serious stuff. What else would I say? Yeah, focusing more on that practical. There we go, getting more practical and grounded with things now, because you've cleared out the old closet. Now you can see what needs to be filled in a healthy way, not an unhealthy way, not an old thing that you're just dragging behind you. All right, and then also Sunday, there's a sun semi-square Neptune, when it kind of helps shine the light on investigating something. Where have we got sun? And this is kind of like a odd, where's Neptune? I'll show you. It's like over here. So it sits at somebody's square, kind of a wide one. But it's sort of like asking questions and streamlining your daily processes. So this brings you kind of right back into the practical. You get right, get back into, overcoming obstacles and making some practical things, taking that dreamy sun, dreamy Neptune, um, where is it? There we go. Not the sun, Mercury. Making that, it's because it's a square and a half a square. So it's making that thoughts, so those mental gains with that Neptunian energy. So it's like getting the thoughts in gear to just get yourself moving forward. Um, it's like the tension is lessening. We've gone from several squares to now half square. It's more annoying than it is um, so squarey. So it's calming down. So it's the best way to put it. And then coming into Monday, um, it just sort of evens out. We got the moon going into nice Libra, and, it's making a nice trine over to Pluto. So maybe it gives us the emotional reprieve now. I think these, like, if you have a lot some of this stuff that you're going to be moving through, it's going to be kind of something one day, then the next, then the next, then the next, and then I think by Monday it starts to clear out. Because we have that the moon in Libra is nice. Um, it's air sign, and then making a trine over to Pluto. So that's kind of like the depths, looking back one more time and just going, never again, never again. And you'll learn from that lesson, basically. But we got Jupiter right on the nodes. We got it, right on the north node and scoring the south node. So I think kind of now take advantage of any money deals, any practical money things, anything coming in your way on your path to get more um, more grounded in anything big or any big project or anything, because it's like right on the north node. Might as well take advantage of that before the bottom falls out, so to speak. All right, that's something big, and we've got a couple big things coming up. We've got Pluto about ready to go back into Capricorn. It's like the middle, not quite the middle of next month, like the 12th, 11th or 12th, I think. Yeah, moving back into Capricorn. So that's also going to be a game changer, going back into there. Yeah, I'll just stop there. So I don't want to get too much ahead of myself. So, but that's one thing that we're building toward. So, get a lot of the stuff done now. Got the windows closing before some stuff gets thrown at the fan. Let me just put it that way. Get your ducks in a row. Just be cool, because everything is just part of the show that's being displayed before us to help us grow and keep your grounding, Keep looking at, how you can move the stuff within you. What's, if any of the stuff is on any degrees in your chart, that just makes it more substantial for you. All right, interesting week. And I guess don't keep your head too far in the clouds. All right. That's about all I have. So talk to you all next week. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.